Okay, so today we are going to focus on writing introductory paragraphs. In my opinion, these are the hardest things to write. Everything else is just like plug in what you found, write your opinion on it, everything kind of builds on each other. In my opinion, the intro paragraph is the most difficult because it's like, where do you even begin? So, the whole purpose of writing an intro paragraph is to obviously introduce your reader to whatever your topic happens to be. It also is a way for you to hook your reader and get them interested in whatever it is that you are writing about. A intro paragraph follows the structure of an upside down triangle. We start really vague and then we get very specific. It is also not meant to be very long. This is the beauty of an intro and a conclusion paragraph, quite honestly, is that they're both very short and to the point. What's beautiful about this is that you already have a thesis statement. So hopefully you have already written your thesis statement on your outline and it is copy and pasted there. The one that I'm working with for this sample says, persons with physical disabilities are underrepresented in the media, which results in false stereotyping and a lack of differently abled role models. In order to enact positive change, people creating television shows or films can hire actors who are differently abled in order to provide inspiration to others with similar disabilities and cultivate a positive relationship with this community. Okay, just recapping really quickly what my thesis is. The next, or like the first thing we need to write, is our hook. Okay, the purpose of a hook is to catch and grab your reader. It can be anywhere from 1 to 2 sentences, and I strongly discourage you from using questions because it's very difficult to ask your reader a question without using the word you. And we really don't want to say, do you know? Or have you ever heard? Because that's not really appropriate in an academic paper. A possible example could be something like, each year, hundreds of thousands of teenagers walk around with a small paperback in their back pocket. That makes you say, what? I don't do that. What are you talking about? Instead of starting with Catcher in the Rye is the best book for teenagers. The purpose of your hook is to go a little bit beyond the subject that you are discussing. So you don't necessarily have to mention anything that has to do with your thesis. To give you kind of an example that I don't recommend you use, I used to start every essay in high school with a quote from Finding Nemo. I would somehow find a way to make Just Keep Swimming connect to Shakespeare. I don't recommend you go that left field, but it is possible to just go a little bit beyond like what exactly it is you're talking about. So you can do that by making a bold statement, by listing an interesting fact or statistic, providing an intriguing example, or a relevant quotation. Things you do not want to do are write a bunch of fluff, things that you think sound really smart, but really is just like not saying anything at all. Do not restate the prompt. I know what it is. I wrote it. Additionally, do not give the definition of a word. We all have access to a dictionary. And don't say anything that references all of humanity since the beginning of time, or all humans have their troubles. Like, that is not, it's too much. Tone it down. Additionally, we don't need any kind of like book report introduction. There's no need to mention things fall apart. That is not necessary here. So for my sample intro paragraph, I came up with the hook. In the novel The Hunger Games, the main character Peeta loses a leg. Yet this is not depicted in the film version. Okay? What are you talking about? What does Hunger Games have to do with anything? What is my paper about? Etc. Okay? It is a profound statement or something that's interesting. It reels you in and makes you think, what does that have to do with anything? I want to read more. So, take a minute, pause the video, and create a broad or general statement that is vaguely related to your thesis. You do not have to mention representation or your marginalized community. So we have our hook, we have our thesis, and the next step are writing the broad statements. We have to somehow create a bridge from your hook to your thesis. What does this one random thing have to do with your thesis? So the best way to think about this background information is like, you gotta connect these two ideas. How can we take your hook and make it relevant to your thesis. Maybe give a little bit of explanation about the hook. What does this have to do with? How can we elaborate on this a little bit more? Are there any important terms we need to know? Maybe a little summary that might be useful. But essentially, your intro paragraph will follow this formula. 1 or 2 hook sentences, 2 or 3 pieces of commentary explaining your hook, and then a little more information that connects to your already created thesis. So for mine, my bridge, I put, additionally, in the television show Glee, one of the main characters is meant to be in a wheelchair, yet he is played by an able-bodied actor. Unfortunately, these are not unusual circumstances in film and media. Oftentimes, persons with physical disabilities are not shown on screen or are played by able-bodied actors. Without frequent representation, many inaccurate stereotypes are created about persons with disabilities that harm both this community and their able-bodied counterparts. So, I've taken this very vague sentence about the Hunger Games, and I've managed to focus my paragraph back to my overall goal and my overall topic. So I started with something that kind of had nothing to do with anything, and I was able to bring it all back to my main topic and my main idea. So, take a minute, right? Look at your hook sentence. What are 3 sentences? How can you get from your hook about Finding Nemo and connect it to your thesis about the marginalization of African Americans? So take a minute, think that through, and bridge that gap.